Welcome to Outside Views. Today we're taking a little look at the political system of Azerbaijan in the year 2025. A country strategically located between Europe and Asia, Azerbaijan is a political system shaped by its post-Soviet history, economic reliance on oil, and ongoing regional conflicts. But where does Azerbaijan stand politically today, and how has its system evolved amid domestic and international developments? Azerbaijan is officially a unitary presidential republic, meaning that executive power is highly centralized in the office of the president. The president of Azerbaijan serves as both the head of state and the head of government, holding significant authority over the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. In 2025, Ilham Aliyev continues to hold the presidency, a position he has maintained since 2003 after succeeding his father Haydar Aliyev. The president is elected through a nationwide vote, but opposition parties and international observers have often raised concerns about the fairness of elections in Azerbaijan. The prime minister and the cabinet of ministers operate under the authority of the president. The president appoints the prime minister, ministers, and other key government officials, making the executive branch highly centralized. While there is a formal government structure, real decision-making power remains concentrated in the presidency, with limited checks and balances from other branches of government. The legislative branch consists of the National Assembly, which is a unicameral parliament with 125 members. These members are elected for 5-year terms through a mixed electoral system. While the National Assembly is responsible for passing laws and overseeing government activities, in practice it has limited independence and functions primarily in support of the executive branch. Opposition parties hold few seats, and parliamentary debates rarely challenge presidential policies. The judiciary in Azerbaijan is constitutionally independent, but in reality it's often seen as being under the influence of the executive branch. The Constitutional Court, Supreme Court, and lower courts handle legal matters, but political activists and human rights organizations frequently raise concerns about judicial impartiality and selective law enforcement. Critics argue that the judiciary is used as a tool to suppress political dissent, with opposition figures, journalists, and activists facing legal persecution. One of the defining aspects of Azerbaijan's political landscape in 2025 is its ongoing conflict with Armenia over the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Following the 2020 war and subsequent territorial gains by Azerbaijan, diplomatic efforts continue to define the region's long-term status. Azerbaijan remains engaged in negotiations with Armenia, with international mediators attempting to secure lasting peace agreements. However, political and military tensions persist, influencing domestic politics and national security policies. Azerbaijan's foreign policy in 2025 remains centered on balancing relations with major global and regional powers. The country continues to maintain strong ties with Turkey, which has been a key military and economic ally. At the same time, Azerbaijan seeks to navigate complex relationships with Russia, Iran, the European Union, and the United States. Its role as an energy supplier, particularly in oil and natural gas exports to Europe, gives Azerbaijan strategic leverage in international diplomacy. Economically, Azerbaijan's political system remains closely tied to its natural resource wealth. The oil and gas industry continues to dominate the economy, providing significant revenue for government projects and social programs. However, concerns remain about economic diversification, corruption, and wealth inequality. Efforts to develop sectors such as tourism, agriculture, and technology have been discussed, but dependency on hydrocarbons remains a central issue for the country's future economic stability. Corruption is a major challenge in Azerbaijan's political system. Transparency International and other watchdog organizations frequently report concerns about high-level corruption, nepotism, and a lack of government accountability. While the government has made public commitments to anti-corruption reforms, critics argue that these measures are selectively enforced and do not address systemic issues. Freedom of speech and press freedom remain restricted in Azerbaijan. Independent media outlets face censorship, and journalists critical of the government often encounter harassment, arrests, or forced exile. International human rights organizations continue to call for greater protections for press freedom, political opposition, and civil society. Despite these challenges, digital activism and social media have become important tools for political discourse, allowing alternative viewpoints to be shared, albeit under government surveillance. Elections in Azerbaijan continue to be a major point of controversy. While the country holds regular presidential and parliamentary elections, international observers, including the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, have consistently raised concerns about election integrity, media restrictions, and opposition suppression. In 2025, electoral reforms remain a topic of discussion, but substantial democratic changes appear unlikely under the current government structure. Looking ahead, Azerbaijan's political system in 2025 remains highly centralized, with limited space for political opposition and civil liberties. While the government continues to focus on economic growth, but also national security and regional influence, concerns over democracy, human rights, and governance remain key issues for both domestic and international stakeholders. The question remains whether Azerbaijan will introduce meaningful political reforms or whether the current system will continue to reinforce authoritarian governance. And that already was our little dive into Azerbaijan's political system in 2025. And if you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching Outside Views, and I'll see you in the next video.